Hey, how's everyone doing today? It's the one and only Super Coyote Face, Ash the Coyote Face, the dumpster doggo with a little bit of sass. A few weeks back, I did a video on 5 things that you should not do at furry cons. Well, this week, I am diving off the deep end with some convention horror stories. Joining me here today is the lovely Bubbles.
Hi, I'm Bubbles. I'm a fennec, if you can't tell by my ears. I have a couple other characters. I have my fennec, Bubbles, and then I have my red fox, and then I have a kitsune too.
She'll be sharing some of her wild con experiences with us later on in the episode. Bubbles is of course the convention chair for 5 cons, so she has some crazy stories to tell us. But first... Alrighty, so I will start this one off with one of my favorite convention horror stories. Have you ever been to Further Confusion? It's a con out in San Jose, California. Chip and I used to go all the time because we have a ton of friends out in California. One of the unfortunate happenstances with this con, though, was that it just so happened to be on the same weekend as a volleyball tournament. Like, we literally shared the hotel and convention space with them. Now, this by itself isn't all that big of a deal, or at least that's what I thought. So we fly in and get to the hotel and settle in. This is one of my first years with a fursuit. I had literally just made it myself, and I decided that as soon as we unpacked, we should just go down to the convention space in fursuit and hang out. So we get in suit and hop in the elevator. On the way down, of course, it fills with volleyball players and their moms. The usual selfies and side comments commence. I mean, I get it, we are just a little bit weird, but I mean, that's okay. On our way over to the convention center, we walk past another group of players, and I immediately do a double take. It's my cousin and my aunt walking by. Oh my god, I was not out as a furry at that time, and let me tell you, that moment felt like time froze. I just kind of stopped until Chip dragged me off to the fursuit lounge. I proceeded to tell him who I thought I saw, and he assured me that it was probably not them. He was wrong. Over the course of that con, I dodged like 12 interactions with them. Years later, my cousin stops by our house, and of course she remembered the whole thing. We still laugh about it to this day.
So I'm going to talk about a fun little incident at Aquatifer. We were walking by just wrapping up some stuff for the night, and we saw a guy following a woman. They were probably like in their 40s or 50s, and the woman was hiding something in her arms, and the guy was following her with a camera like really, really close, and we're like, okay, something weird is happening because they're trying to like scouting out the area. And the lady then opens up her arms to a giant American flag with a picture of Donald Trump on it that says Donald Trump for president. And she starts parading it around in front of our attendees, and everybody's just looking at them like, what the heck? They were apparently not hotel guests, so we have no idea what went across their head when they're like, I'm gonna go to a furry convention and start waving around a Donald Trump flag in front of a bunch of faces and see what happens. Luckily, the hotel security went up to them almost immediately and was like, what are you doing? And they're like, this is free space. Like, I'm allowed to do this here. And they're like, actually, you're not. This is a hotel. Please leave. But just the fact that some random person decided to come do that was interesting.
For some reason, every con, I always end up talking to the police in a just outrageous outfit late at night. The first time was at Painted Desert in 2019. It was late at night. I think it was probably like 2 in the morning, and the dances were going. There was a thumping beat, and a bunch of non-attendees at the hotel tried to sneak in, and the hotel security ended up calling the police on them because they were being a little too rambunctious. So they called me and told me that they were getting the police involved and they wanted me to be there. I pop out from the photo shoot in fursuit. I take off my head. I'm just drenched in sweat. And I walk outside. The police get out of their car. I'm there with the hotel security manager. One of the cops comes by, just super serious. What's going on? And the other cop comes out and just comes up to me and says, so what does the fox say? And I just started cracking up. Then I just had to do the whole incident in fursuit without a head, looking ridiculous.
When we were going to FC for the first time, that's Further Confusion in San Jose, we didn't know there were 2 hotels connected to the same convention center, and our friend told us to come up to the room. They gave us the room number, so we're like, oh, okay. So we just get in the elevator, go up to the room, and we're like knocking on the door, and we're like, hi, and they're like, hi, and we're like, we're here to see our friend. And they're like, oh, well, they're not here right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. So Ash and I walk in, and we're like just sitting there waiting, and there's all these other people in the room. We're just looking around. I'm like, okay, are they gonna show up? I thought they told us they were in the room already. It turns out it wasn't their room. It was like in a completely different hotel on the other side of the convention center. So we ended up like just sitting in a room with a whole bunch of strangers we didn't know. Eventually, like, we're just like, okay, we gotta go. We don't know who you are. And we just went downstairs. We're like, what the heck happened? And then we later get a text. It's like, oh, we're in this other hotel all the way across the convention center. And our friend is like, oh, you just ran into a whole bunch of weird people, didn't you? And we're like, yeah, we didn't know who they were. Just a bunch of strangers. It was a little awkward. So yeah, that was pretty silly.
And we're rolling.
Do I need a fursuit? I don't have one.
Hold on. Let's
Awesome. Hi, I'm Ash the Eagle, or whatever species I am right now. Fox. A fox. Close enough. A few years back, I decided to go to MFF. I had never been before. I didn't know hardly anybody there. I think I decided to go like 2 weeks prior to the actual con, so it was very last minute. I didn't have a room. I didn't know like what I was gonna do when I got there. I just wanted to go and check it out. So I ended up going onto, I think it was conroommates.com or conroomies or something like that, to try to find some people to stay with. Was not expecting much because it was 2 weeks prior to the convention starting. And while I was there, I just got super lucky and happened to find someone that I actually knew who said they had a room available. So I jumped onto that offer and was able to room with them. But it was the hotel the furthest away from the convention center. So you know there's like the main hotel, then there's one right next door that's connected with the sky bridge, and there's one that's connected with the parking lot. We were in the hotel that wasn't connected to anything, so we had to like walk. And it was like a 20-minute trip just to get to the hotel to the place where the con was actually happening. And that was like really cold. and I wasn't prepared for that. Overall, I had a pretty good time. But I also happened to time it so that my first time at this convention was the year of the infamous Chlorine Incident. Which if you haven't heard about that, someone let off a chlorine or something in the main hotel space. I think it was actually in one of the stairwells. When that happened, I was in a room party. And I had been partying pretty hard, so when the alarms started going off, no one really had any clue what was going on. There's a lot of general confusion. It wasn't like chaos, but there was some sense of panic for sure. I left the room party that I was in because I was mostly with strangers. I didn't really know too many people at this con this year. And I kind of just wandered the hall as everyone was evacuating. And I just remember feeling like I was wandering through a dream. It just felt very surreal because it was late at night. People were either dressed in fursuit or in their nightwear or whatever they had been wearing to the various parties that were going on at the time. And there was a very interesting assortment of people gathered on the street while we were waiting out this incident, trying to figure out if we can get back into the main hotel. Very fortunately, I ran into some people that I did know, and I was able to go with them into someone else's hotel room to kind of just wait it out. But like I said, I'd been partying pretty hard that night, so I can't exactly tell you what hotel I ended up in or what we did for the rest of the night. I just know that it was not until like 3 or so that we actually got back to the main hotel, and it was a very weird first experience for MFF. I'm surprised I kept going back after that, but it quickly became one of my favorite conventions. It just kind of started out really intense with that whole incident.
So PDFC the first year, we always run a patron dinner with our guest of honor. Now, I was super excited, brand new hotel. They have a make your own ramen bar that they offered. I was like, okay, this sounds awesome. So I set that up. It was, I think, 6 members from the hotel management and 5 from our staff that went over. They're called BEOs. So it's our contract with the hotel that explains how they're going to set up the room each day. It goes over our food as well. So the food, we went over it, ramen bar, whatever. Everybody's all clear. Yeah, Saturday night dinner sounds great. So what happened was that we didn't realize was Friday night, their kitchen brought the ramen bar into the sponsor lounge. Now, nobody told us this. They didn't understand why the 50 people we said would be there weren't there. They just packed it up and left. And Saturday comes around, we're sitting there with our, 30 to 40 dinner people that were able to show up, and there's no food. So we're like, what's going on? We go and we find out from an attendee that was in there, like, yeah, it was really weird. I was in the sponsor lounge yesterday and there was ramen. And I was like, oh no. So we had to call up our event manager. We had to call the hotel and say, like, look, we need a dinner right now. Like, we told you Saturday night. When we emailed you, we said Saturday night. All of our programming stuff says Saturday night. And we all missed it, apparently, on the BEO saying Friday. Because that's what the kitchen sees. Kitchen doesn't see what we talk about, and the event managers coordinate. And they ended up coming out with a bar. They comped the bar for an hour for, like, open drinks so people could drink if they wanted to. They brought us, like, shitty pizza, and they brought like chicken wings. We ended up like giving everybody like a discount on their reg for one of their corgi cons of choice, and it was a nightmare though. We were so upset, but hopefully this year we're gonna try the ramen bar again, so hopefully it works out this time.
Well, my next one involves the police again, and also involves a crazy costume. This was at Denver 2019. Late at night, I get a call about someone who's intoxicated and kind of causing some trouble. So I go out and investigate. Bubbles bought me a skirt from Costco for Denver, so I was wearing that, and I just had my tail on, and then my staff shirt and the skirt and my tail. And so I just run. I'm like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? I get out there and this guy's kind of being combative. He's kind of coming at me. We're outside, trying to get back inside. I'm closing the doors, making sure he can't go back inside. We get to the last door that I closed. So once he realizes that he can't get back into the convention, he just kind of starts walking towards me, lunging a little bit, and then kind of drunkenly falls over. And I just like, oh, let me just get you down here. So I'm just going to say that was my first fight, and also my first fight that I won because they fell on the ground before they got to me. But then, unfortunately, they went unconscious for a little bit, so the police came, and then I had to talk with them in my skirt and my tail, and they were very serious. If you've ever met Aurora cops, they're very serious. It was just really funny. I didn't really realize what I was wearing until after the fact, and I was like, oh, well, this is 2 for 2 now for crazy costumes and talking with cops.
We can't talk about convention horror stories without talking about the MFF Chlorine Attack. Man, that wasn't fun. The alarms went off in the hotel. We had no idea what was going on. There was fire trucks everywhere, ambulances, and we're like, we have to get out of here. We don't know where to go. We had a friend invite us to their room in a different hotel. It was just just across the street. And so we go up there, and there's like 40, maybe 50 people in one hotel room. It was crowded. So we're all just sitting there kind of waiting it out, seeing if it's okay to leave, seeing if we can just find a place to be for the night, because we can't go back to our hotel room at all. There's no place to sleep. There's no place to eat. Everything's closed because it's super late at night. And so we just tried to make the best of it and talk to our friends in the room. But the problem was there's a couple people who just couldn't keep their volume under control. They were so loud and so obnoxious that all the neighboring rooms started calling the front desk. They were complaining that there was loud noises. And we kept saying, like, please be quiet. We have nowhere else to be. Come on, just chill out. And I guess maybe they were just too excited about partying or something. So we got like the hotel security called on us and everyone had to leave, and so security was like pounding on the door saying, get out of there, get out of there. They open the door and they're like shocked because the room is just packed full of people, and like 40 or 50 people walk past the security guard like, sorry, we tried to keep it quiet but couldn't do anything about it. And then we had to go like wander around Chicago looking for a place to sit. We finally ended up at Denny's. By that time it was probably 3 or 4 a.m. We were exhausted by the end of the night. Like, we finally got to be able to go back to our rooms early in the morning, like 6 a.m. We just slept the whole day. And I think everyone else did too, because nobody got any sleep that night.
My first time fursuiting. Well, funny story. I'm not so much of a fursuiter myself, and that's probably because my first experience was a little weird, I guess. I had a friend who made fursuits for a living, and I, at the time, had never tried one before, and really wanted to see what it was like. So she had some spare materials lying around, mostly orange fur. I'm a purple eagle, so it's not exactly a perfect match, but we decided to use that material to create like a brand new character for me so that I can go suiting. So we created a fox, not too unlike the one that you see me in right now, and we called it Ash Fox. I was a terrible fursuiter. It is possible to be really bad at it. And I remember going out and I just didn't know what to do. I spent so much time filming and taking snapshots of people in their suits that when I actually got out there, I just wasn't prepared for like embodying this character and like being bubbly and active and stuff like that. So when I went out, I just kind of stood there expecting people to come around and want to get their photo taken with me, and they all just went to the next guy who was actually doing stuff. So that's when I learned that you actually have to kind of give yourself over to the character, and it was a learning experience for me because I also realized that I couldn't just embody some random character that we threw together. I really needed to have a connection with the character first. So I think that's partly why I haven't bothered to get a fursuit of my own since then, because I really want to make sure it's like special to me, something that I really connect with.
So this had to do with a hotel employee. This was pretty interesting. So we had an attendee message our social media page that apparently a hotel employee was saying that these fursuiters were disgusting and that she can't believe that we're at this hotel, like took a picture by one of our banners and said like, oh my God, I hate myself. I wish I could quit my job. And saying like all these fursuiters are hugging her and that she's grossed out and doesn't want to be there. And it got a lot nastier than that. But to keep it short, we went to talk to the hotel management. Like, look, we have a really good relationship with that hotel. And whenever there's a problem employee, we say like, hey, this person's causing a lot of problems. Can we not have them work the rest of the weekend? Like, they hate our attendees. Why would they want to be here? Like, tell them they have the rest of the weekend off. Apparently they fired her from the stuff that she said. It was really bad. And a lot of our attendees got upset because they thought the bar were taking pictures of them and posting them on the internet. So that was interesting.
This isn't a convention horror story per se, but if you consider film festivals to be kind of like conventions, then it's kind of a convention horror story. So I'm a filmmaker, and I went to a film festival in San Francisco called Framewine. And I went there because I had created a short documentary called Furries, and I was premiering it for the very first time to the public, to the non-furry public. And I was very fortunate in that several local furry friends came out to the premiere, and the festival actually let them wear their suits. So they got to come up on stage and just be their furry selves in front of everybody. So that was really cool. But I remember all of us waiting outside of the theater. The previous screening was still, wrapping up, so we weren't allowed to go in yet. And we were all just kind of standing out on the street waiting to go in. Some random person in the city kind of just runs up from the crowd and takes like an empty beer bottle and just kind of like strikes one of the fursuiters on the head. Fortunately, suits are pretty well padded, so the bottle just kind of bounced off and the person in the suit barely even knew what had happened, but everyone else kind of standing around was just shocked, like, oh my God, that just happened. And we ultimately ended up like trying to like flag down security to see if they could do anything about it, because we didn't know if that guy was going to come back. But it was just a very alarming and unexpected moment, and I don't know if he was doing it for attention or if he was just, you know, not in his right mind, but it was very alarming, and fortunately no one was hurt, but we were definitely a little bit rattled, and going from that right into the film premiere was not the best way to start my night. I had a lot of nerves already because I was about to present this film, but then all of a sudden I'm just trying to play like, you know, caretaker for these fursuits because I have to like watch the crowd to make sure that no one else comes up with any empty beer bottles. It was a weird night, but thankfully the film itself went over very well, and people seem to enjoy it. So aside from that one moment while we were waiting outside, the rest of the evening went off without a hitch.
Now let's jump into this week's Ask Ash. For those of you new to the channel, Ask Ash is a segment where my patrons and subscribers ask me questions and I answer them. This week, I'm answering a question for one of my patrons. Should there be a furry alternative to Twitter to avoid harassment from furry haters? Oh my, that is an interesting question indeed. Let me start with a discussion about Twitter, and then we can shift into the potential alternatives. Twitter, as a platform, has been really up and down for me. I think it's a great way to keep in touch with folks, and that's primarily what I use the platform for, but on the flip side with it comes a whole lot of crummy people. Platforms like Twitter tend to favor controversy and drama as it is directly beneficial to the company's ad revenue. This sometimes gets out of hand and puts negative personalities on a pedestal. Sometimes it turns into a virulent witch hunt or crusade to crush whoever opposes their point of view. Now, there are ways to fix this on the platform itself. You can use block lists to keep those furry haters off your timeline, and of course this extends beyond the fandom as well. All that being said, should there be a furry alternative to Twitter? I mean, I would certainly like it. I think it would be a lot of fun as a platform, and with the right moderation, it could be amazing. But I don't think that will stop the haters and negative folks from finding a way in. I think the hardest thing at this point would just be to convince people to switch platforms. Think of it like Facebook or Fur Affinity. Once people are on a populated platform, it's really hard to convince them to jump ship for a new one, even if it is better. Alright, I think that about wraps up this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you aren't already, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Got a crazy con horror story? I would love to hear about it. I hope you all have a fabulous day. Goodbye! A big shout out to all my patrons, starting with my superfans we have Diana DePry, Brad the Fox Who Writes, Lazy Trash Panda, Beastly Drohan, Wolf Rider, Billy Daxter, Elliot Excel, and Cutter. Next we have my fans tier with Sky Draco, Bear Sinneth, Dan Fox TX, Nova Halvern, and Solace the Wolf. And finally we have my early access tier with Scruffy Fincat, Elixir, Cosmo, Scaleth, Shadowfaxy, Tyler Furlong, Tara Linus, Kalijah, Edith Everett, Cockernell, Katie Rose, Runes and Kaz, Samantha Sawyer, Mitsukatsa Wild Rose. Thank you all so much for your contributions.